ASUTSEN, Architecting Wealth, Automating Future.
Artificial intelligence is everywhere. We see it in chatbots, search engines, software, images, videos, and increasingly inside the products we use every day. But there is a question hiding beneath the AI boom. Who actually controls it? Is it the company with the smartest model? The company with the largest user base? Or is the real power somewhere deeper? Because every intelligent system depends on something most people never see. Machines, chips, data centers, electricity, networks, capital. And as AI becomes more powerful, those invisible layers become more important. The AI revolution may look like a software story, but underneath the software, an enormous economic machine is being built.
When we interact with AI, we see the final layer. We type something, a machine responds. The experience feels almost weightless, but the response has to come from somewhere. Behind the interface is a model. Behind the model is computing infrastructure. Behind that infrastructure are processors, memory, networking, storage, cooling, and electricity. And behind all of those systems are factories, supply chains, engineers, financing, and physical assets. The interface hides the complexity. That is what makes modern technology so powerful. Millions of people can interact with an incredibly sophisticated system without ever seeing the machinery underneath it. But if we want to understand where economic power comes from, we have to look beneath the interface.
Artificial intelligence requires computation, and advanced intelligence requires enormous amounts of it. Training large models can require vast computational resources. Running those models for millions of users requires another layer of capacity. This turns computing into something more than a technical requirement. It becomes an economic resource. The more businesses depend on AI, the more valuable computing capacity becomes. And when an entire industry begins competing for the same scarce infrastructure, a bottleneck appears. The companies that can secure that capacity gain an advantage. The companies that cannot may find themselves waiting, paying more, or operating at a disadvantage. In the AI economy, access to computation can become a form of power.
But computing power does not begin inside the data center. It begins much earlier, at the semiconductor level. The processors powering modern AI are the result of extraordinary manufacturing complexity. A tiny piece of silicon can contain billions of microscopic components. Producing those chips requires specialized facilities, advanced equipment, highly controlled environments, sophisticated materials, and enormous investment. This creates another layer of dependency. AI companies may build models, cloud companies may build infrastructure, but both depend on the semiconductor ecosystem beneath them. The deeper we go, the fewer critical layers we find. And that is where economic power becomes particularly interesting.
Then there is the resource AI cannot escape: energy. Every processor consumes electricity. Every processor also creates heat. And the larger the computing system becomes, the larger the energy and cooling requirements become with it. This means the future of AI is increasingly connected to the future of infrastructure. Power generation, transmission, data center construction, cooling technology, land, networks. These may sound like traditional industrial concerns, but they are becoming part of the digital economy. AI may be software, but software at planetary scale still needs physical resources, and whoever can reliably provide those resources can become strategically important to the companies building the intelligence layer.
Now, follow the money. AI requires infrastructure, and infrastructure requires capital. Massive computing facilities do not appear overnight. Semiconductor factories require enormous investment. Energy systems require long-term planning. Cloud infrastructure requires continuous expansion. And businesses building AI products need financing to scale. This creates a powerful relationship between technology and capital. Capital funds infrastructure. Infrastructure creates capacity. Capacity enables new businesses. Successful businesses attract more capital, and that capital can finance even more infrastructure. The result is a feedback loop. Technology creates economic opportunity. Economic opportunity attracts capital. Capital expands technology, and the cycle becomes larger.
Put all of these pieces together, and the architecture becomes visible. At the bottom is energy. Above it, physical infrastructure. Then semiconductor technology, computing, cloud platforms, AI models, applications, and finally, businesses and consumers. Every layer creates value, but every layer also depends on the layers beneath it. That is the fundamental architecture of the AI economy. A company building an application may depend on a model. The model may depend on cloud computing. The cloud may depend on processors. The processors depend on semiconductor manufacturing. And manufacturing depends on a vast ecosystem of equipment, materials, energy, logistics, and capital. The application is visible. The architecture is not.
This is where infrastructure becomes power. When many businesses depend on the same layer, that layer becomes strategically important. The provider does not have to own every company connected to it. It only needs to remain difficult to replace. This is how dependency becomes leverage. If thousands of companies need computing, computing becomes a leverage point. If they need specialized chips, chips become a leverage point. If they need cloud infrastructure, the cloud becomes a leverage point. Economic power does not always come from owning everything. Sometimes it comes from owning the thing everything else needs.
And this is where platforms become powerful. A product is something people use. A platform is something other businesses build upon. The difference is enormous. When thousands of businesses build on the same infrastructure, the platform becomes embedded in their operations. Switching becomes harder, dependencies become stronger, and the value of the underlying system can increase as more participants join. This is one of the most important patterns in modern business. The greatest opportunity is not always selling the product that everyone wants. Sometimes it is building the infrastructure that allows everyone else to create their products. Now, the relationship between technology and wealth becomes clearer. Capital builds infrastructure. Infrastructure creates capacity. Capacity enables businesses. Businesses generate revenue. Revenue attracts more capital. And scale creates dependency. Dependency creates leverage. This is how economic value can accumulate around infrastructure. Not because infrastructure is always the most visible part of the economy, but because it can become the part everything else depends on. The application may capture the customer's attention, The platform may capture the transaction, but the infrastructure beneath them can capture something different: recurring demand, scale, dependency, and strategic position.
And the next transformation may be even larger. AI is beginning to move beyond screens, into factories, warehouses, logistics, energy systems, robotics, transportation, scientific research, business operations. When intelligence enters the physical economy, the value of infrastructure increases again. The system is no longer simply generating information. It is beginning to coordinate activity. Machines can interpret information. Software can make decisions. Automated systems can execute those decisions. And businesses can increasingly operate through layers of intelligence that were previously performed by people. The AI economy may therefore become much larger than the software industry. It could become part of the operating system of the physical economy itself.
This is the deeper transformation. AI is moving from being a product to becoming infrastructure. Once that happens, the economics change. Infrastructure creates dependency. Dependency creates leverage. Leverage attracts capital. Capital expands infrastructure. And expanded infrastructure enables even more businesses. The system reinforces itself. That does not mean there will be one company controlling everything. Economic power is rarely that simple. Instead, power can emerge from strategic positions inside the architecture: the chip, the data center, the cloud, the platform, the network, the energy system. Each layer can become important because the layers above it depend on it.
So perhaps the AI empire does not look like an empire at all. There is no single capital city, no single flag, no single throne. Instead, there is infrastructure, computing, chips, energy, networks, platforms, capital, and millions of businesses connected through them. The empire is not defined by territory. It is defined by dependency. The more of the economy that relies on the architecture, the more important the architecture becomes. This is why the AI race is much larger than a race between models. It is a race to build, control, and occupy the critical layers beneath intelligence. The AI revolution may not ultimately be won by whoever creates the most impressive application. It may be won by whoever builds the infrastructure that everyone else needs: the computing, the chips, the networks, the platforms, the energy, the capital, the systems that sit beneath the visible economy. Because the greatest economic opportunities are often hidden in the layers people rarely think about, the layers that seem boring until everyone depends on them. And that may be the most important lesson of the AI boom. Technology changes quickly, products come and go, interfaces evolve, but infrastructure tends to remain. And when infrastructure becomes essential, it becomes powerful. The AI revolution is happening on our screens, but the economic architecture behind it is being built underneath them. The question now is not simply who will build the future, it is who will own the layer that makes the future possible.
ASUTSEN, Architecting Wealth, Automating Future.